Hunger can drive one to extreme measures. It can push one to prioritize survival over moral considerations. When one is in desperate situation, they may resort to actions they wouldn't normally undertake. Primal instinct drives one to meet one's basic needs like food, shelter, or security.
Agada is a village in Abia River State of Nigeria. They are known for plantains. Most of the families in Abia has a plantain plantation farm. This is Dorcas, a 32-year-old woman. She got married in 2010. She has 9 children, and she is 8 months pregnant. Her husband has been unemployed for several years. The husband usually leaves the house every morning and returns at night just to sleep. These 9 children are between ages 2 and 14, and they never attended school. On January 28, 2024, these children were extremely hungry. Dorcas, the mother of these children, not knowing what to do exactly, left the house in search of food. The children bid their mother goodbye with the expectation of having something to eat on her return. So Dorcas went into the plantain plantation of Mrs. Betty. Her intention was to cut down any full-grown plantain that she sights. She had successfully cut off a bunch of plantain from the farm before Mrs. Betty saw her. Mrs. Betty attempted to stop her from escaping with the plantains. As Dorcas ran, Mrs. Betty pursued her. "I will shout and alert people," says Mrs. Betty. Knowing what that implies, Dorcas had no option than to stop. There was struggle. Argument ensued between them. In the heat of the struggle and argument, Mrs. Betty used her machete and stabbed Dorcas on her leg. To prevent her from running. Dorcas, angered by the development, put down the bunch of plantain and descended on Mrs. Betty. She allegedly inflicted multiple injuries on her with her own machete, running out of the plantation and leaving the bleeding Mrs. Betty all by herself. Mrs. Betty screamed, and this attracted people who came to her rescue. She was immediately taken to the hospital for medical attention. While in the hospital, she was able to tell her family members, the person who injured her, and how it all happened. Mrs. Betty fought for her life, but she couldn't make it out of the hospital, meaning the injury was a very serious one. She eventually gave up the ghost. A report was filed at the police station and Dorcas was subsequently arrested. When the police saw the injury on her leg, she was sent home to go and medically take care of herself. This injury was the one Mrs. Betty inflicted on her. While trying to stop her from escaping, she went home, and after 2 days she was rearrested. Dorcas, in her confession to the policeman at Criminal Investigation Department, said that she resorted to stealing the plantain because of hunger, that for some days her 9 children went to bed without food, and as their mother she lost it at that point. She also said, when she and her children could no longer bear the hunger anymore, she decided to leave the house to look for anything that could serve as food, and she made them know that she has not done such before in her entire life. In her confession, she also said that she resorted to stealing the plantain when her husband could not take care of his large family. When she was told that Mrs. Betty had died from the machete cuts, wounds she inflicted on her, she broke down in tears, and she said, "How I wish the hand of clock could turn back to that day. I would have acted otherwise." And she said, "I have been praying every day, wishing that she would wake up to discover all this played out was a dream." Dorcas blamed every action that took place on January 28, 2024 on hunger and poverty. Hunger is a force, and when it is on the extreme level, it cannot be pretended about. This case has been charged to court. It is very unfortunate that a life was lost in search of food. My opinion, if Dorcas pleaded with Mrs. Betty immediately she was caught, this case might not have turned out this way. Moral lesson of this story: 1. Couples should procreate within their means. 2. Let us learn to respect people's property rights. 3. We should think carefully before making life choices so as not to regret in future. 4. Self-control is an act, having it is a virtue. Hope you enjoyed this story. This is a true life story. Original names were changed. Do like, share, and subscribe. We have much more coming your way. Bye.